You're the girl who everyone abandons.
Maybe they had good reason.
Because what's inside you? You're afraid of it because you think it makes you bad, evil. All the words you've been taught to keep you in line. Words created a very long time ago by men with very little minds. They can't begin to comprehend what you are. Even your XMen.
You can.
I'm delighted to say we've been joined by Jessica Chastain and Sophie Turner. Hello.
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 I had a very unusual opening to our conversation merely moments ago, and I don't think it's happened before, but Sophie walked in and started singing a Radio 1 jingle.
I did. Would you like me to do it again?
Well, if you're prepared to commit it.
Simon Mayo, 88 to 91 FM.
Wow, the visual of the dancing and the
That
snapping.
was great, wasn't it? You missed out, Jessica, so much in the 90s.
Oh, I did.
You did.
Well, that's nice. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Slightly taken aback by that turn of events. So here we are. So enough Radio 1 jingles. Let's talk about, can both of you just explain where we are in the XMen story?
So at the start of this film, the X-Men are revered as they haven't been in the past few movies. They've been ostracized and discriminated against. In this movie, we see them in a very safe and stable place. A lot of the people that were in the movie before, a lot of the young'uns have become professors at the school, and everything is seemingly going swimmingly, although Professor X is certainly enjoying his fame.
That's right.
That's
okay.
right.
And so you're Jean Grey. Your powers are telekinesis,
Yes.
telepathy.
Yes.
Okay. And it's basically your film, isn't it? I mean, Jessica as well. But
No, it's her film, 100%. The Dark Phoenix.
It's everyone's film.
Okay. So just to give us a taste about where she goes in this astonishing story that you're telling here.
This movie is basically about the unravelling of Jean and the unravelling of the X-Men. The catalyst for all of this is a solar flare entering Jean in space, and it unlocks a life of trauma that had been put away by Professor X and locked away behind walls in her mind. And this is the beginning of Jean spiraling out of control.
So if you look at the Internet Movie Database, it will say Sophie Turner and Jean Grey and links, and then you go to Jessica Chastain and it says nothing.
It says nothing?
It doesn't say your character name.
Oh, I was like, I'm nothing.
Oh no, there's loads. There's loads. You know, all your very fine films.
She hasn't been in anything. This is her first movie.
So, what can we say about your character, and who are you, and where do you come from?
My character was created from the mind of Simon Kinberg, and it's a combination of multiple characters from the books. So I can say I'm otherworldly, I can say I came from another planet, but there's no big reveal as to who I am because it's a creation.
Okay. Do you have a name that we can...
I do, but I've been told I'm not allowed to say it. I know.
Why. We've said it in some interviews and then we haven't said it in others.
Yeah.
Well, you can't not say it in this one, then. That would be unfair. It'd be discriminatory, in fact.
It would, actually.
All right, Soph, do you want to do it?
It is Volk. That's
What?
it.
Someone said in my very first scene of the film, someone says my name.
There you go.
Volk.
So it's not a huge reveal, is it?
No,
It's
it's
not.
not.
It's not a spoiler.
It's not.
No.
Well, now we're gonna get in trouble by the whole
It's okay. We've done
studio.
this tour too long. It's fine.
But yes, and you're not a particularly good person.
In real life or in the movie?
No.
In real life.
In the movie.
Listen, I think it depends on your definition of what that is. She comes to Earth to learn more about this Dark Phoenix power and to see if she can manipulate Jean to actually help my character, use it to my advantage and to the advantage of my species. But at the same time, in doing all that manipulation, she empowers Jean, which I found that really interesting. When Jean's at her lowest point and she's questioning whether or not anything has been real in her life or anyone has loved her or she's been doing the right thing, my character says things. She lifts her up in that she says, listen, are you going to just do what you're told, be a good little girl, follow the rules that this man has told you? Are you going to become the most powerful creature in the universe? Are you going to make your own rules? I think it's a really interesting thing to explore. Also, this idea of female rage. You know, you see it happening all around the world right now, women marching. rage is important sometimes, and you can't see the light without the dark.
Sophie, you used the word unravelling earlier about your character. And again, I don't know how much you can say and how much you don't want to say about what happens to Jean. You have a split personality, which we explore a bit in the film. Can you say a little bit about the unravelling and how you approach that?
Well, that's pretty much exactly it. In this movie, all of these fantastical things that are happening to Jean are not unlike schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder and addiction, especially when it comes to filtering down to the X-Men as well. And so that's what I studied. That's how I found my way into the character, was studying all of that. And it helps to ground it in something that will really resonate with people. She starts off, as I said, as a very stable character, very strong mentally. And this is about her falling out of control and unraveling.
Is she unwell?
She is unwell. It's this phoenix force is inside of her, and all of these kind of things are happening to her, and she is completely disorientated and frustrated and angry and hurt and completely abandoned. And she starts to lash out unintentionally, and it manifests itself in very destructive ways.
There's a moment, again, it's very early in the film, where Jennifer Lawrence's character goes up to Charles Xavier, James McAvoy, and says, why is it always X-Men? Why isn't it X-women? And I want, because we've been watching these movies for a long time, and I wonder if there's a moment there when suddenly people are going, you know what? Yes. Why is that happening now? And I wonder if that was one of the reasons you were quite attracted to getting involved in this part,
Yeah,
Jessica.
I definitely was attracted in getting involved because the focus was on the Dark Phoenix storyline. Simon wrote this film almost 4 years ago, so it was before everything broke apart, really came to the forefront with the Me Too movement and Time's Up and all of that. So he was really ahead of all of that in some sense. I've always been talking for the longest time about how we need more female leads in other genres and in this genre in particular. And so it was definitely like, let's put my money where my mouth is. I've been talking about this. This is a perfect opportunity for me to show up and support this story.
And I wonder if X-Men was starting now, Sophie, enough people would go, actually, you can't get away with that. Even despite its comic book history, you can't start a whole new raft of films called X-Men when there are women here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think if it was starting now, it would be called X-People or X...
Yeah, but you have to also look at history, though, too. Like, history is his story.
Yeah, and
men, mankind. I mean, it's really, even language is written in a way that it doesn't necessarily reflect the genders of society.
I'd be interested to know what you think about this, both Sophie from having been in Game of Thrones and Jessica, you watching it and tying it into X-Men. Maybe this theory doesn't work at all, but I wonder if there's a noticeable narrative shift that happened over the series of Game of Thrones and has happened over the years in X-Men, where that kind of gender imbalance has been addressed, where there's a lot of accusations made in the early days of Game of Thrones, which have kind of changed as the series has developed, and the same change has developed in X-Men. True or not true? Nonsense or not nonsense?
I don't think that's nonsense. I don't. I think it's totally true. I think, over the course of the series and over the course of the X-Men movies, there's definitely been a big change. In terms of storyline, in terms of how women are represented. When I was growing up, all of the superheroes were white males. And in Game of Thrones, you kind of start off the series and it's all of these white males running the politics of this world. And as the series goes on and as the superhero movies have evolved, there's been far more inclusivity.
Jessica, can I ask you about rage, which was your choice of word? I follow you on Twitter, and and you tweeted a link, I think it was yesterday actually, to an article in Variety magazine about Kirsten Wiig's film, which was filming in Georgia. And after the signing of the anti-abortion legislation, they said, we're not going to film here. And you said, this is how you do it. Men take notice. I wonder if you could just explain a little bit what you're wanting out of that.
Well, many times incredible men ask us, I guess as women, like, what can we do to help? And that's a perfect example. I mean, so much is about money. In anything. When you look at these films, you go, wow, they're making Black Panther and Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel and Dark Phoenix, and it's so inclusive now. Well, that's the audience spending their money on the stories that they want to see. So my request is maybe for people to listen to the women who are now uncomfortable to film in a state that discriminates against women's bodies. And that's how you can be a great ally, is where do you put your dollars? That's so important, because whatever you're putting your dollars towards is what you support.
So you wouldn't film in Georgia either?
Oh, no. I signed a letter that said I'm not going to film in any state. It's not about one state in particular. Actually, I've filmed there before. I love the state. I love the people. But I will not work in a place that discriminates against women, or anyone for that matter.
Sophie, same for you? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I signed that bill as well. You know, I completely agree. I don't believe in supporting a state where people are discriminating against our bodies. I think it's cruel and unreasonable, and I think it's we're moving backwards, and that shouldn't be supported.
As to what we see you both in next, Jessica, the last time you came on, which was for Miss Sloan, you were talking about getting to listen to a lot of country music and being taught by T-Bone Burnett. This is for George and Tammy.
Yeah.
I just wonder how your country music collection is coming on and whether you can sing the way T-Bone wants you to sing.
Well, sadly, that movie's on hold right now. But in a few weeks, I'm going to go do some pre-records because I'm going to play Tammy Faye Baker, another Tammy.
Okay.
She was a televangelist, and she's the first televangelist to bring on a gentleman, a gay minister who was suffering with AIDS. So she was incredibly inclusive and really a powerful figure. And there's a documentary about her called The Eyes of Tammy Faye that RuPaul narrates.
Okay. And I guess, Sophie, you're entitled to take some time off.
I don't know about that. I think I'll start itching for work, but I would like maybe like a 2-week holiday. That would be nice.
Just 2 weeks? So have you got, I mean, you've been working nonstop for the last 10 years.
Well, after I finished shooting Game of Thrones and after we finished the reshoots on Dark Phoenix, I haven't been working for like 8 months. It's been pretty good.
Well, if you need work as a jingle singer, then I was impressed by your work.
That's my new career.
So consider yourself hired.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe less so. Maybe we need the other Tammy to come back and do some jingles. Are you gonna? Do you think the Tammy Wynette thing will happen?
I hope so. I'm definitely still like looking at it and thinking about it. Things like that are expensive to make, incredibly, especially when there's so many live performances and big audiences and concerts, and those films are tough. So yeah, we're moving up.
If you get a chance to be taught by T-Bone Burnett, then that's going to be something else.
He's special, man.
Jessica Chastain, Sophie Turner, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.